Hello, welcome to the Feature Spotlight webinar for September 2025. I'm Dale Franks. There is much to talk about today, and that was not what I wanted to share. I wanted to share that bit right there. As I said, much to talk about today. SQL Business Values are going to see the Monaco editor implemented for being able to construct SQL statements in a real live code editor in the product. There is a new custom task. It is called Decrypt Files. It will have less user adoption, I'm sure, than SQL Business Values, but useful for those who want to use it. A warning note about Grammarly and its use, and then we'll talk about some other enhancements and other bug fixes. Before I talk about the Monaco editor for SQL Business Values, I do want to show you this, version 6.1.313. A new patch version for Process Director is now available for download at the support site. So for those of you who are on-premise customers and who want to take a look at it, please feel free to download this new version. The new version, 6.1.313, is also the only version currently that will allow the use of the new Decrypt Files custom task that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. If you have any version below that, this CT will not work. We'll cover that when we cover the Decrypt File CT a little later. But it does mainly have some quick bug fixes in it. So it is a patch. It is not a full version release, although, of course, it is a cumulative release. So it is the latest and greatest of the product. It just doesn't contain any of the new features. And technically, since Decrypt Files is a custom task, the version doesn't contain the custom task itself, as custom tasks are always separate. Let's talk about the Monaco editor for SQL Business Values. This will become available in version 6.1.500. What we are doing is replacing the current text box and little drop-down controls that show up in the current version of the product for SQL Business Values, and we are replacing them with the Monaco editor, which is the same code editor that is used in VS Code or Visual Studio Code. My favorite text editor, Microsoft owns it now, but they're not the ones that created it. And I've been using it since well before Microsoft bought it. I really like it, like the way it works, and I think it's a big, big addition to SQL Business Values. And if you don't know SQL very well, it's a fantastic tool because now you don't really have to know SQL off the top of your head because of the way that it works, because it supports all of the proper SQL syntax things. So it formats your SQL statement. It provides code validation, so it points out mistakes that you might have made. And of course, it has IntelliSense. So when you begin typing a SQL command, as we'll see in a minute, it automatically supplies it via a drop-down, so you don't have to type out the full command. So rather than just this dead plain text box that you have, the Monaco editor will give you a full SQL editor. And if, as I said, you don't know much about SQL, I think it will make your life a little bit easier. Let's take a look at how the Monaco editor works. Keep in mind, this is still under development, so it's not fully done yet, but enough of it is done for me to be able to demo it for you in full. So if you look at the top of the SQL Business Value, you'll see I already have a training data source applied to this. So it pulls the tables from that training data source. So on the right-hand side of the screen, instead of the drop-down containing the tables, and you select a table, and then it shows you the fields in that table and just sort of a text /label control. There's now a tree view that you can expand everything or collapse everything or just expand one item at a time. In this particular data source, there are only 2 tables available, and you can just and you can use this, by the way, which you couldn't before. In fact, we're about to use it. So let's begin typing a SQL statement with this. We'll type in SEL, and there we go. I have select already available for me, so I can just go ahead and hit enter. It will put in my select, and now I can choose my tables. Unlike the previous version where you had to type the tables in or copy or type the columns in or copy and paste their names, I can just say, you know what, grab me the last name and the first name and the state. And I've got my 3 columns that I want in my business value, and I'll type in FR, and there I get my from. And I've got to type in my table name, which is Excel Customer Contacts. Excel, well, there it is right there in my dropdown. Excel Customer Contacts is my valid table. So I'll just select that. Where, well, there's my where statement. I got that through IntelliSense. Where state, and if I just type in state, it gives me the drop down. Now, this is something that we're going to have to fix. As I said, it's not fully ready for prime time. I don't like that it throws in this dot text here. It shouldn't do that. So that's one of the little things that still remains to be tweaked in making this fully work. But we now have our state. So we want it where the state is like, and well, there's my like command. And it can't help me with this, but I am going to put in a parameter. Now, if you look at the very bottom, you can see I already have a parameter down here. It is named state. So I'm just going to pull this parameter. So we'll grab our %, which is our wildcard in SQL, and then we'll drop in our system variable for the parameter, and then we'll put in another % there. And we also want to order this. So we'll order by, well, there's my order by right there. So order by, and in this case, we'll just pick state. Well, great. This looks good so far, but one of the nice things that I can do, and it's a new button that now exists in this in this particular editor, is the format command. So I can actually format my SQL query by clicking the button, and it takes my SQL and puts it in the appropriate syntax formatting to make it look all pretty. Everything else works exactly the way you would expect. If I wanted to add the columns as properties, I could just click that button. It will add my last name, first name, and state column as properties there. And if I want to remove it, now this is new, I can clear all of the properties simply by clicking the Clear All Properties button. It will give me a warning to telling me, asking me if I'm sure I want to do that. I do. And now, as you can see, it's removed all of my properties. But again, I can just click the button to add them back. If we want to test the query, we certainly can. I do need to provide a parameter, so we'll just go with AR. I'm sure there's a lot of states that have AR in the name. Arizona, Arkansas, for example, Maryland, I guess. Let's test our query, and it will return our names and states. By the way, this is all fake data. These are not real people. These names don't exist, although the states, of course, do exist. And okay, well, we got Delaware and Maryland and North Carolina, so that has an AR in it. So, well, we get all of the states that have an AR. So this is the editor. Gives us a couple of new things, the format and the clear all properties button. Makes doing SQL statements a little bit easier. So I think you're going to enjoy that a little bit more. With that in mind, let's move on. The decrypt files CT. Excuse me for just a moment. Somebody is a little barky this morning. The decrypt files CT enables the decryption of attached files attached either to the process or to a form if you know the encryption method that you used to create the encrypted files. This was done at the behest of a customer who actually uses some decrypted or some encrypted files in their processes, and they want to be able to decrypt those files. So what this CT does is perform that decryption. Then it attaches the decrypted versions to the form or to the process. Now, you've got to use this in conjunction with a compliance data source. So let's take a look at how this thing works. Let's start off by looking at our compliance data source. So I have this data source. I've named it Crypto1. It is a compliance data source. Now, I have not put in a user ID or a password. I don't need it in this case, but what I do need are two important attributes. I need to have the decryption key. So whatever the crypto key is that provides the decryption, I need to provide that. And I also need to provide the passphrase that is used as the encryption seed. So I have, using the add value button on a compliance data source where you can add, additional attributes. I've added two, one called passphrase and one called crypto key. This is a sample crypto key that I basically copied and pasted off of passphrase that I created for my cryptography. So I now have the passphrase and the crypto key stored. Obviously, anytime that you're going to be storing crypto keys or passphrases like this in a compliance data source, just like if I was using a username or a password, you would want to ensure that this data source cannot be accessed directly by anyone who you don't want to be able to read or copy and paste these values. But the nice thing about the compliance data source is I don't have to be able to access it to use a compliance data source in a custom task. So on our form, I have the decrypt files custom task already there and ready for encryption. The very first thing I need to do is select the compliance data source that contains the crypto key, which, as we saw, is Crypto1. Once I select that, I now have a drop down that enables me to grab the crypto key from the compliance data source and the passphrase and set those. This is absolutely necessary to be able to decrypt the encrypted files. And by the way, it has to be the appropriate crypto key and passphrase that matches the file's encryption. So if you don't know either of those two things, you can't decrypt the files. So as I said previously, the encryption method must be known in order for this to work. Where are the encrypted items contained? Are they in the current form? Are they in the process, or are they form attachments? So you could just select the appropriate value. Do you want to limit the encrypted items to a specific group? Our recommendation is that you would have the encrypted items in their own group so that you would only run those files through decryption. You can have multiple groups. And similarly, when you decrypt the items and reattach them, do you want to provide a special group for them? Our recommendation, as always, is to use group names whenever you can. So you'd put a group name here. If there are existing items already in the group, do you want to delete them or keep them? If you want to delete them, all you have to do is check that box there. And then finally, where do you want to attach those objects? Attach them to the form or to the process. That's entirely up to you. So this CT will take the files, run them through the decryption using the private key and passphrase that was used to encrypt them. It will decrypt them and then reattach them to the form or the process. Our recommendation, of course, is that you associate them with the process. That is the decrypt file CT. It's obviously going to have a little more limited use. I say a lot more limited use than the SQL business values. But if you want to use decrypted files or encrypted files, you now have the capability of doing so in Process Director. I'm begging you with tears in my eyes to stop using Grammarly whenever you are trying to build forms. It's best if you turn off all of your browser extensions. However, admittedly, even I don't do that. I know what browser extensions I can keep on and what browser extensions I need to ensure are turned off. Grammarly is an extension that I have simply stopped using and I refuse to use. Um, there's another tool, in case you care, called Language Tools, which is less destructive, but I still don't use it with Process Director. Browser extensions are super convenient. Because I do so much design work, I constantly keep a couple of browser extensions running so that I can just click on them and mouse over text on a page, and I can see what font is being used by that page. And I can do a font comparison, and I can apply different fonts to content to see what they'll look like. And those are great extensions. They're super convenient. But some extensions you have to be super careful of. The nice thing about being able to do all this cool stuff in your browser, it's also awful, especially in the case of extensions like Grammarly. Because these extensions operate in your browser, we, BP Logix, Process Director, whatever you want to call it, we don't have any control over that. Grammarly is one of a number of extensions that rewrite the HTML and JavaScript that we deliver to you. In other words, we deliver all of the HTML and JavaScript that makes a Process Director page work, and we deliver it to your browser. Now, look, if you're just an end user and you're just filling out forms, it's not really all that big a deal. If you are using the online form designer, it's an enormously big deal, because what's going to happen is we're going to deliver the page that has all of the HTML and JavaScript that makes the online form designer work. It's going to hit your browser. And we're done. We have delivered you the page that you asked us to deliver you. What's going to happen now in your browser on your local computer is that Grammarly is going to take that HTML and JavaScript and it's going to rewrite it. And it's going to replace some of our JavaScript with some custom JavaScript that it writes. And it's also going to replace some of the form controls and the HTML for all of those things. And it's going to rewrite that too. The page you're now looking at is not the page that we sent you. You are now looking at a custom page that Grammarly has decided to redesign to make life more convenient for you. Pro tip, it will not make things more convenient for you. It's going to rewrite the design of your form, because it's going to rewrite that form HTML and add cool Grammarly things that Process Director doesn't recognize. Bad things will happen. And because this all happens on your browser, completely outside of our control, we cannot stop the bad things. And we've had several support tickets over the past month or two where entire sections of their forms would just disappear when they clicked on them. Well, the reason is Grammarly has rewritten the form, and now we can't parse the form because it contains HTML and other commands that are not part of the form that we don't recognize. And so things go awry rather quickly. So don't use it, not even once. Anytime you are designing forms, if you use the Grammarly extension, you cannot use it when designing forms, because it's going to rewrite your page for you, and it's going to do it in a way that may be catastrophic. And if you don't have versions saved, may be unrecoverable. So, as I put on the bottom, not even once. Turn Grammarly off for Process Director. Some other enhancements coming to the product. We've made security improvements to session cookies. What improvements? Wouldn't you like to know? We're not going to tell you. We never get specific about security improvements that we make to the product for obvious reasons. Line activity display and ability. So here's the thing. Whenever you are in a process timeline, so let's switch over and well, I didn't want to switch over to that. I wanted to switch over to here. Let's take a look at what we're talking about. And I'm not sure it's fixed in this version, but I'll try to I'll try to well actually I don't know if I can actually look at anything in this version because I don't have any running uh, process timelines generally on this one, and I don't want to have to look for them. So let me switch over to a version where I know it doesn't exist, but I can at least show you the problem, and that will make it clear what it is that we're trying to fix. What's my time? 10:20. Doing great on time. So let's go in here. Let's go to the training webinar. And I still have this running. So let's go to here. Let's go to our process. And well, actually, I want to see some running instances. So we'll just grab here at random and we'll take a look at the administration timeline view. These have all already ran. So um, let me restart here. We'll be start. And what have you, is that if you keep the default colors, which I did not for any of these, um, it may be hard to see these bars for running activities or for future activities that are predicted to run. And so the color palette is just too light. It doesn't have enough contrast. And sometimes you can't see well what is going on in your process. I think if we go here, let's take a look at the analyze timeline view. Okay, here's a great thing right here. Um, this color contrast, I mean, there is actually a little bar here, but you can't see it because the colors are bad. So this is obviously one that hasn't been fixed. And so these color things here that I'm supposed to see, I'm just not seeing. In fact, I'm not seeing any of my bars. I should at least be able to see the outline of the bars. They're not showing up here. This is just a color palette change. It's not a functionality change, but we have gone in and gone through our colors to be sure that whenever I switch to something like the Analyze Timeline view, or when I look at a running timeline instance where I have activities that may occur in the future, you can't really see them. What you have to do is just kind of like move your mouse until the pop-up comes up. Where is it? Where is it? Okay, well, there we go. I can see my pop-up. That's super inconvenient. You should be able to see these things way more clearly. And with the fix, now you can, so that the visibility of those options are, well, they're colored appropriately so that you can see what it is that you're doing with the new version of the process timelines visual presentation that we show in version 6.1. Some bug fixes to cover real quickly. We had some problems with icons, three of them that we had to fix. First, the use no icon selector on the icon chooser didn't work. So whatever icon was selected got selected anyway. So that didn't work. If you are an on-premise customer and if you were using Process Director in a virtual directory, not in the sort of the default location, uh, on some installations, and not all of them, but on some installations, it was showing the wrong path to the icons. So when you opened up the icon chooser, you just didn't see any of the icons at all. All of the icon images were broken. They never displayed. You could still select them, but you had no idea what you were selecting. So we fixed that. And also, when you right click on the icon, an icon in the icon chooser, there is a menu that pops up that says add to favorites. And you should be able to right click, add to favorites, and it would add to favorites. And so in the icon chooser, there's a favorites tab that shows you all of your favorite icons. The only problem was adding to favorites didn't work, so it never added the icon. So we went through the icon chooser and fixed off those errors. Was another error where if you applied styles to a button, those styles could get overwritten at runtime and the styles that you set wouldn't be respected. So we fixed that so that your styles get the priority. If you had a form where, or a process, an application, where you required re-authentication to actually complete your task. And that's one of the options in the advanced tab of a user activity, for example. Although I think there's also a re-authenticate tool that you can use on a form. In any event, if you were using SAML and you were requiring re-authentication, there were some circumstances in which the re-authentication wouldn't work and it couldn't re-authenticate with your SAML system. We went through and fixed that. Not everybody saw it, and you only saw it whenever you were forcing re-authentication. And on some SAML systems, it wasn't working. So we fixed that. Several people were complaining of disappearing sections and form parsing, and things were just going all haywire. You'd click on a section and, half of your form would disappear. It turns out that all of those tech support tickets were coming from Grammarly. Now, just because Grammarly is a problem doesn't mean that we were doing everything perfectly. So we did take another look at our form parsing methodology that's kind of hidden in the background of how we go through the form and determine what controls go where and what controls go into what section and how we, sort of enumerate through all the controls on the form. We did do some fixes on that in an attempt to mitigate at least some of the issues that might be caused with Grammarly. It's not a perfect fix, largely because there are many times where we just can't predict what Grammarly is going to do on a particular form. So we couldn't fix it totally, but it did at least prompt us to look at how we were parsing forms and to see if there were any improvements that we could make. And we did, in fact, find some and made them. Finally, BP email import, the newest version of it, had a problem with standard authentication. So if you set it for standard authentication, it was still trying in some cases to force OAuth anyway, even though you were not set to use OAuth. So it was just a little bit of confusion in the code about when to use OAuth and when to use standard authentication. So we did fix that. And along with the new version of Process Director, the .313 patch, we also issued a new version of the utilities. So if you are running the most recent version of the utilities that was released a couple of months ago, you're going to want to replace that with the new version of BP import and BP email import and BP util. That utilities package that contains those three utilities. It's brand new, contains the most recent fixes, including this one. So you'll probably want to, even if you don't want to download the product itself, you probably will want to go to the support site and grab the new version of the utilities package and download that, and so that you can run those utilities locally, however it is that you're currently using them. And that's it. We are done with this episode. As always, I appreciate the fact that you show up and listen to me ramble on for about half an hour. Thanks for listening to my ramblings. Have a great month. For those of you who attend the training webinar, that reminds me, I need to update the schedule for the training webinar because we've just finished our unified approvals. So I got to figure out what we're going to talk about on Thursday. I don't even know, but we will talk about something on Thursday morning at 10 a.m. So if you aren't attending the training webinar, I would always encourage you to do so. And I will make the effort to update the training webinar schedule on the support site as soon as we're done here. And we are done here. Have a great week. Have a great month. We'll see you next time. So long.